welcome to the Joinery Business Podcast. This is our very first kickoff podcast in the barn. And I'd like to introduce some wonderful people that I've gotten to know in the last couple of hours. Special guest of ours from the United States. And I'll just let you guys introduce yourselves rather than me trying to fumble with names and pronunciations of things.
Sure.
I don't like to take that risk. So
I am Cassey Gibson. I do education and starting to do some marketing for Innergy. Been with Innergy for 4.5 years, and I'll let you go, Cole.
All right, yeah. So my name is Cole Eklund. I've been with Innergy for 7 years. I'm the head of implementation with Innergy. I've been implementing the software before we really had software. But our product's more than software, as you guys will find out later.
yeah.
And AJ Kramer, head of sales and growth. Been with Innergy for about a year, but owned my own manufacturing business for 6 years and ran Innergy as my ERP for 3 of those 6. So not new to Innergy at all. Knew the team before coming over and being a part of it. So really happy to be on this side of it.
Yeah, cool. So as we alluded to, you're from Innergy. Tell us a little bit about Innergy and what Innergy is about and the business, and
Sure.
and give us a bit of background on what it stands for.
Yeah, so first off, I think a lot of people in the States, they see Innergy, they think software. Software is just one part of our product, right? Innergy is software and it's education, industry education. A little bit of background, we've only had software for about 7 years now.
Wow.
Innergy as a corporation started probably in 2015, but the idea probably started in 2001.
Right.
Mark Sanderson, our CEO, he came from not the architectural millwork industry, joinery industry, right? He purchased a shop in central Minnesota called Ron's Cabinets, and Mark, being a Harvard graduate, he brought a lot of the business concepts that he learned at Harvard and applied it to a millwork shop, and that meant Mark realized very quickly, hey, we need to have software to kind of run our business and our process.
Yeah.
And so he built with Jim, he built a custom FileMaker Pro database. And it was really designed around concepts like the theory of constraints, bottleneck thinking, lean manufacturing.
So it started with how does the business need to operate best first, and then fit that into something that is called software.
Because Mark, as an outsider, he kind of went into this and he's realizing, oh, well, I can look on the shop floor, I can see where the problems are on the shop floor. I see a stack of material. I see it, but in the office, you can't visualize some of those problems. And he's realizing a lot of those problems stem from work in the office.
The bottleneck was the office to some degree.
Absolutely, and it still is for 90% of the shops out there.
Yeah.
So we started Innergy as a concept. Really didn't kick off until Mark realized, well, I think that we can apply this to the overall industry.
Yeah.
And so we partnered up with a development firm. That development firm is now part of Innergy.
Yeah.
And we're about 56 employees.
I think that's correct.
Wow. So it's really grown as a business.
Yeah. And we're looking to do some pretty extreme growth next year as well.
Well, I think it's important also to note is that majority of them are developers, right? So while we have the industry minds of the people that are on sales and education and implementation, right, that the velocity of our development of the actual software puts us in it's a differentiator for us in really any market that we've gotten into.
Yeah.
It's just a different mentality.
Yeah, taking people from the industry itself and then turning that into something that works for other people in the industry.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, really cool.
We call it voice of the customer.
Voice of the so welcome to the barn, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. It's beautiful. Beautiful sun. It's kind of raining out.
Really serious question I've got for you guys is, how do you rate the coffee?
Oh.
All right.
I'm not a coffee drinker, and it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
10 out of 10?
This is a good caffeine boost after a long day of travel. Yeah.
So I am a coffee connoisseur. All right. I have an espresso machine at home. I do espresso every day. So I'm used to espresso, but this is very delicious. You don't get the acidity.
Yeah, very smooth.
It's very smooth.
Yeah.
Very good. I love it.
And I would put myself right in between the two, right? Like I maybe have 1 cup a day to get me going, and it's top notch.
Excellent. Okay, well that's
I'm enjoying it.
You're welcome back anytime.
Well, I downed it pretty quick, so I'm probably going to ask for it. This podcast might get a little crazy because I'm probably going to have a couple.
When you come back, we'll have our full kitchen set up here, and
I
we'll be
love
making.
that.
Yeah, we'll be full into coffee production.
That's great.
So in this podcast, we talk a lot about the industry itself, and we've been talking this morning a little bit about the state of the industry worldwide. Not just, you're from the U.S. obviously, but your software would cater to anybody in the world. Because at the Joinery Coach, what we know is that it doesn't matter if we're having conversations with people in the UK or Qatar or United States or New Zealand or Canada. It's all the same conversation.
Sure.
And that's really cool. So tell us a little bit about what you're looking to discover here. You're on this, you've come. It's a long way, right? It's a big trip. So what are your plans, and what are you here to discover?
We obviously we have some customers already here in, and we'll say Australia and New Zealand, because we have in both countries, and we are here. You hit the nail on the head. Just to learn, and we know the United States market really well.
Yeah.
We recently kind of made a big announcement that we had we moved into Canada, and once again we already had customers there, but we really made the announcement on the education piece. It was like, hey, we're coming to Canada to do education specifically for that market.
Yeah.
And now we sit there and say, we have a couple here, we think we know a little bit about them, but let's go that little bit step deeper and understand, hey, how does their workflow work, right? How is their business model? How do they go source work?
Yeah.
All these little things that, even though we can make a lot of assumptions, which we have when you enter into a market, now is our time to come and just say, hey, let's learn more about that and kind of confirm some of those assumptions.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, right, we want to deliver top-notch education and just serve whatever customer we have the best we possibly can.
This is really cool. So you haven't done that yet. We're about to kick that off today and go on a bit of a tour to see some of your clients.
Yeah.
So your experience so far has been excellent coffee and almond croissants.
Oh my gosh.
Very good.
Yeah, they're incredible.
And it's probably colder here than you thought it was going to be, right? Coming to Australia, you're going, it's going to be really warm.
Your spring, our fall.
Welcome,
So we're
welcome
feeling
to Melbourne. It's raining and cold. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you've discovered from the industry in particular. Let's say in the last 4 years. What are the innovations, let's say, that the industry really needs to have it move forward that maybe isn't being serviced very well out there right now?
Yeah. So I would probably say, going back to your first question, I'll answer that second one here. What we've discovered is, whether it's Australia or the United States or Canada, a lot of these shops need to understand some more business practices in terms of strategy and how to run their business, and what work do we sell, what work maybe do we not sell, maybe we stop saying yes to everything, right? And our industry, at least in the States, has largely been trained to think about the newest and greatest machinery.
Shiny objects.
Right? And that's a tool. Energy is a tool. But education is a little bit more than a tool. It's a strategy piece. So we've kind of approached the industry from the standpoint of, we are software, and that's going to help you. But what you really need is something that will help you run your business in terms of a strategy, a set of integrated activities, right, that set your organization up for success and higher returns. And what we're discovering with our few clients here in Australia and New Zealand, it's the same story.
Same story.
Right?
Yeah.
Same problems.
We go in and we expect software, and the software helps us solve our problems, but it's the underlying education that's behind it that really gives more solutions than the software.
And we're going to find out as we tour, but some of the one that resonates with some of the United States is to the point they buy the big, nice, shiny machine, right? They think that's the magic bullet that's going to make them profitable or increase the throughput, whatever they want it to be. Then they realize, I need the flow of information to match the speed of the machine.
Or I need the material there before the machine can do it.
That's right.
Or the job program the right way.
The machine salesmen, they're great, right? They're great at their jobs because they sell that all day, and now the problem shifts, right? And it becomes the flow of information, and that's some of the business that we're in as well.
Yeah, that word flow is one that we use a lot, and primarily what we believe that we want to help people do is create flow in their business from start to finish. I often think of a business like almost like a big pipe with valves, and the job of the people in the business is to run around and turn valves on and off all day long, as appropriate. So Innergy is specifically for the cabinet making joinery shop fitting commercial industry. It's, first of all, it's fantastic to have you because, you know, to hop on a plane and go all the way around the world is a big journey. And you're not here for holidays either. I noticed on your itinerary, you don't have any time just to go and, you know, see the Opera House or something like that.
We have 2 days over the weekend.
2 days over the weekend.
Oh, good.
But we're still meeting with some people even Saturday morning.
So that's really cool. I like what you're saying about tools because this is really, really important. We find for sure, what we've learned over the years also is some people will believe that if they buy a tool, all their problems are solved, right? It doesn't matter what that tool is. And particularly with CNC machines, we saw.
Sure.
And when I was working as an integrator for CNC machines, I found that a lot where people would buy a machine and then have the exact same construction method they had for 20 years, now getting the CNC to do that. You know, when really with the education part of it, which is really that's the most important thing that you're saying here is the education before the tool. Education doesn't come with the tool. It's got to be pre-tool.
Well, it's about the application, right? Yeah. You know, we would never be successful as we are now if we just sold software, right? And so we take that approach of providing an understanding of what the underlying problems are of why you are buying that software.
Yeah.
And the software, the different modules out of Innergy, just like you said, just one tool to solve the problem, but also a week-long course with us to help you understand, you know, why are we trying to solve that problem is the other part of the solution.
That's the cool thing that I find is that your approach to this is it's the reason for your success. Because you're not just selling something. It's not just, here's the thing, do you want to buy it? It's, first of all, do you need it? Are you going to be able to accept it? And do you have the knowledge to use it? Right? And if not, let's do these things first before we even get the tool in your hands. Because if you don't have the education to use it and I sell you the tool, well, we're both going to fail because you're not going to tell your friends about it and you know it's probably going to sit on the shelf.
And change is hard. It's very hard to change your process and to change the way you think, and it's hard.
What do you get other people to buy in, right? I mean, it's difficult.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that education part of it? How do you deliver the education? How do you ensure that people have the education first before the tool, or is there a combination of things that happen along that?
It's definitely a combination of things. I mean, Cole and his team do an incredible job of implementing once somebody becomes a customer. And I mean, we tease that it's an all-you-can-eat buffet, but how many calls a week? You're sitting in hundreds of calls. Your team is going through hundreds of calls. We do have a learning management system, Innergy Peak. That is 24/7. People can get in there and take courses, learn about problems in the industry, strategy, and also tactical stuff like how to click through the software. We offer forums, which is 3 weeks, 1 week at a time over the span of 12 to 18 months. We actually have one of our firms from New Zealand is at the forum right now. So kind of fun going back over there. It is, and those are using Harvard case studies as a basis and then having conversation in a room with like 30 owners, pulling them together, talking the case study, and applying it back to this industry. So pretty significant, not really offered anywhere else. And then we do summits, like our face-to-face events. We do webinars, lunch and learns. I mean, there's a lot of education that we're trying to put together that applies to the industry.
It's fantastic. There's a lot of software out there right now. And very rarely do we find the educational part of it and the support and the training part of it as elevated as it is with you guys. So it's it's impressive. I applaud your approach for sure. Awesome. We know that the people in this industry need that level of support because the education isn't there around business. The number one thing that most polls or data collection points that we find that holds businesses back is actually the amount of education they have. How do we do things? It's not that they don't build great joinery. It's just they don't know how to create a really successful business.
Well, and it's entrepreneurs, right? Like that's the beauty of this industry is it's people who went out and decided they were going to build a business and they may not have a business background. And so providing some of that education, I think, is vital to their success. And it's hard to get for them. They're busy trying to wear a lot of hats and run a business. And where do you go to get that?
So I can hear the industry right around the world, but I certainly know the industry here in Australia is going to be going, yeah, but how much is this thing? Right. So how do you discuss that part of it, that investment, that return on investment? What's that conversation like for you guys?
I'll let AJ chime in here, but
certainly not asking you how much is the product, but it's a conversation.
ROI.
You have to navigate.
ROI is a huge conversation.
It's a value conversation, right? You buy something, and whatever the price is of that something, how long does it take you to get value out of it, right? And when you think about implementing a piece of software to run your business, For some organizations, that takes 6 months, or some that takes 3 years. But for energy customers, they get value within a month of buying our product because they can use certain modules of the software and they can take advantage of our education immediately. So they're immediately getting value for what they're purchasing.
Yeah.
And I do want to say on the education front, we don't charge for that.
Right.
That is not something we charge
Just
for.
part of the.
It is just part of what we do. Even our prospects or people who aren't yet customers, they have access to some of that as well.
Oh, wow.
So we are very much trying to offer
back.
that to the industry. Yeah.
Well, and some people, the old school software model is, hey, I'm going to charge you $100,000 up front, and there's some maintenance going on, and then all of a sudden things started shifting to a SaaS model, right?
Yeah.
And some people have the mentality of, oh, well, you're just trying to get me to pay for this in perpetuity. And we really approach it in a different way, and we really have this conversation of saying, I get that, but think about it. We're lowering your barrier of entry to take this tool on and get in and start using it. Yes, it is a monthly fee, but we have to. That means that we have to continue to show you value and impact for forever.
Plus, you're always on the current model, and
that's right. That's right. And so for us, we think the people who have, of the customers we have, which it's a sizable group now, so our data points are pretty strong. They get that part. They're like, yeah, because we're doing monthly releases of features and functionality. 106 education events last year. It's going to be in 2024. We already have
120 something.
120 something.
Yeah.
So for us, if we don't continue to do these things and continue to show value and impact, then you have the right to leave us because we're not creating that for you.
Yeah.
I also think we have a pretty cool nexus of customers. So you mentioned the release reviews. We're getting a couple hundred customers in the same space on a Zoom call with our development team in Poland, and they're all excited over certain features that are coming out, and they're able to chat about them.
Yeah.
They're able to go to each other even for industry knowledge to kind of work off each other and learn from each other. So it is a kind of neat, tight community as well.
It's such an interesting conversation because we talk about education, bringing the industry as a whole up to the next level of thinking that they need to be at. And I often have this conversation, if we go back years when you were buying design software, we won't name them, but you'd buy that version and you'd use that version. When the next version came out, you would have to upgrade to that, right? Yeah. And a lot of people would not upgrade to the next version, right? They would stay on version 4 and
5 years.
Now version 10 is out. And they find that now version 4 isn't supported anymore, and the computers don't even run version 4 anymore, right? So then the cost to get up to the current version was far more than had they just kept up version after version. So that reality is just there. Like it is just the simple fact that in today's world, we live in a technology-based world, and when you buy into technology, in other words, ERP systems or design systems running your CNC machines, you have to buy into the theory that supports that technology, right? Which means you just have to stay current all the time, and there is a bit of a cost to doing that.
There is.
And it's one of those realities that I think there's a bit of an old school thinking around that, and I'm going to buy this thing and that's going to be it. I think that's fortunately that's going by the wayside a little bit.
It evolves.
And here's what we've done, and this has evolved really over the last 6 months to even something. It was good, and then it got even better. So we actually have a portal where people can they put in their features and functionality they want, and then other folks can go on there. They can vote. They can
Right.
Oh yeah. So in other words, for the vast majority of our roadmap from a development perspective, it's driven by the customer.
Yeah. What a wonderful thing for you to do too, because I don't mind being lazy on these sorts of things. I can spend a week sitting in a room with the team going, what should we do? But if I just let the people who are using it tell us, way easier.
Yeah.
And then we have more time to develop the thing rather than figure out what to do.
Right.
That's right.
We have no shortage of ideas.
Yeah.
Right? That's for sure. The hardest thing that we do now is prioritization.
Yeah.
How do we prioritize?
Which one's first? Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the system. Customers do that for us.
Yeah.
And we'll get 200 votes on an idea that's at the top of the list. So that's what we'll work on next.
Some of them are bribing each other for votes.
They do.
It's pretty great.
The politics move in.
Yeah.
But
they start.
that's just more passion.
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
And it's a community.
Yeah.
There is one thing that I want to make sure we note on the education, which is, we do 106 events and 120 something in 2024, but it's really bringing people together. Before I even was on the Innergy team and I was a customer, the content of we'll call it the lecture kind of side of things that you would get in a PowerPoint presentation was super powerful. But now you're in a room with all of your peers.
Yeah.
And the conversation that happens with your peers either on that content or whatever email you got that's burning a hole in your shop back in the shop, it is equal or more value.
Yes.
And there's just that community of people.
It's nexus. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so true. And we've just run our first live event. And my theory with that was a little bit like you said. I didn't want to have an event where everybody kind of, you sit and you listen to the speaker,
Talking
and you got your water bottles on the table and your pens and your notepads and stuff, and then 3 hours go by and you have a break, and you find that value getting coffee in the break. So we wanted our event to be almost all breaks,
all breaks,
all breakout rooms almost, right? And it really did, because then you've got a smaller amount of people standing around actually conversation part of it.
Well, we do. I mean, majority of the people who work for us came from the industry in some capacity, so there's some depth of knowledge there. But then we require all of our team has to present, right? They all have to be able to do that, and they have to couple with a customer. So you're getting somebody who runs a millwork business in the industry who's helping to teach the course, and it really brings some strength to what we do.
To that point, we have rules that you can't be lecturing. You have to have audience engagement. I mean, there are things that we've learned. Because we're adults. We're adults teaching other adults. Yeah. And adults learn very differently than children, right? And so the different tactics that we have to do for that. And,
What are some of the hurdles that you've seen over the years that have really been a challenge for you?
I think that,
That was such a can of worms question.
I saw.
I think from education, for me, it's getting people's time. How do you get them to step away? Like they are entrepreneurs. They're wearing lots of hats. How do you get them to step away to be part of that education? And that's a huge challenge. And finding crafty ways that we're like, have other millwork companies. People love to hear from the owner of another millwork company how they're doing things.
It's so true.
I like the approach, maybe going through each of our perspectives. Building on the education piece. I think one of the challenges is a lot of folks don't think that they need it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're buying software, but what they really need is something to manage change.
Yes.
Right. And getting people to change is extremely hard.
Yeah.
From the education piece, from the implementation of the software piece, this is very unique because in our limited experience, Australia and New Zealand does not have this issue, right? But in the States, we'll often find folks purchase Innergy and not use it, not spend the time in the software. They meet with us on a weekly basis, no matter what. We kind of force the client to meet with us for an hour-long check-in call and training, and we have so much training and resources available. But then we'll wait for the next week, and some of these clients won't really do anything. Yeah. Right.
So it's not when they're meeting with you. It's what are they doing between the times they're meeting.
And it goes back to what Cassey said. 100%. It's their time.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is we have to do some unique things to get people out of the office or go visit them to force them to give us the time and the software. Because once you spend the time in there, it's a done deal, right? And I say it's unique. We have never experienced this with our Australian customers. We sell it. We still meet with our Australian customers. We meet at 6, 7 p.m. at night at our time. But then we meet the next week, and they're like, and y'all are like, oh yeah, we already did this. We're like, what? You just jump right into it, which we love that spirit. Yeah. It's just a very different culture.
Yeah, I think it's the remote communication connection that Australia has in particular because, major cities are major cities no matter where you go, but the remote aspect of it is still very strong. Remote being virtual, communications and connections. AJ, what are your thoughts on struggles and?
I was going to say, Cole has probably a longer list than me, but we're all about problem solution and really starting to get people to understand and kind of pivot the narrative a little bit where they think about it so there's all these gray areas and you're like, no. If we just can really compartmentalize where we're having these problems, then you can really start to create change. And I think people just, you've experienced this on the implementation side, is they just want to go everything, right? At the same time, we're gonna run before we can walk type of thing. And even on the growth side and revenue side where I sit, it's like, no guys, we're gonna take a deep breath here. We're gonna work through this one thing at a time. So then we can set up, so what we do on our side, this is a good place to say this, is if we do our job on the revenue side, we're not only setting up implementation for success, we're setting up the customer for success. Because every piece of due diligence and thing we learn about them in the sales process, it gets transferred to Cole and his team. Yeah. So they're not starting from, hey, by the way, regurgitate exactly everything you just said to the sales team. Yeah. Right? It's like, hey, this is what we've learned about you. let's peel back the onion a little bit more, and now we craft this whole picture of them and let them continue us down the road. Yeah.
Okay. So serious question time. You can pick anybody, alive or dead.
Oh.
Okay.
And you have one more concert to go to in your life. Who do you pick? Who would you go to? Now I've shifted gears here a little bit out of software and into you guys as individuals.
I have mine ready.
So
Cole's like done.
you can pick anybody, alive or dead, and you're going to go to that concert, and that's going to be the last one you have. Who do you pick?
David Gilmour, live at Pompeii.
Wow. Okay.
100%.
That was quick. So you've thought about this a fair bit.
Absolutely.
I'm the worst with pop culture. I have no idea who that is. I'm just gonna let you know that. I do know Pink Floyd. Okay. I'm U2. I love U2. And I would go back to a concert any day of the week. We saw U2 in Dublin years ago, and it was like the most epic thing I've ever been a part of.
Okay. There's an inside joke in my team that we won't get into here, but that's a wonderful answer. I love that you said that.
Okay.
Because it's gonna resonate amongst my team.
I hope in a great way.
For me, it's going to be a great way.
I'll say that. So I had a father who, in past tense, he's still alive. He's 71 years old. Sorry about that. Who really was like into music. I mean, he didn't play instruments or anything, but he just loved music. And so one of the things he always wanted me was like be this broad stroke of music in my life.
Yeah.
So I've been to probably way too many concerts.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, the Led Zeppelin was always a concert that I wanted to go to. Just like when they were in the heyday,
yes,
right, and they were really doing their thing. I'm gonna go with that one. Like that's like 1A, 1B would be the Beatles.
I was thinking
like
the Beatles.
In there,
Beatles would have been pretty cool,
right?
Yeah.
Good choice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
We were lucky to see Paul when he came here.
Like recently.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, I was here in Melbourne,
cool.
and it was amazing. Like
he's coming. Paul McCartney's coming back.
Yeah, he's still touring.
He's
coming back to.
Yeah, like soon.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need to plan a visit.
This weekend or something, but I think it's here in Melbourne.
Yeah, I would be James Brown, and only it's hard to pick this, right? But only because when we were living in Canada, we had an opportunity to see him when he was on his last tour, and unfortunately, we didn't get a chance.
Wow. Okay.
But I think James Brown would have been just amazing to see when he was in his prime.
He was an entertainer too.
It was just so cool. Like he started so many things. Yeah. All right, so. Shifting gears back again.
This is good. You've got us going back.
If there's one thing that you would say, because you guys know the joinery, cabinets, shop fitting, whatever words we want to use for this, you know what we're saying. You guys know the industry really well. If there's one bit of advice you could give to a joinery cabinet business owner, what would it be?
Well, I'll take turns, I imagine, but I'll go first. It's not about the amount of money that you bid. It's about bidding the right work that fits who you are.
Working with the right customer.
Right, working with the right customer. Yeah. And so oftentimes when we start with our sales and estimating implementation, we have a complete takeoff and pricing module, an opportunity CRM tracking piece. And that's the easy part, getting that up and running. And
numbers are numbers.
Numbers are numbers, right? But it's about the strategy of, what am I going to charge this particular client in this particular area? And if it's about being the lowest bidder, then you lose, and then all of your competition and your peers lose. And so it's a message that we teach in our executive forum about choosing who you are, what kind of markets you go after, and what makes you special, what makes you unique, right? Yeah. Because being a low price leader, that can work for some organizations, but if everybody does that, then this industry is going to fail.
So there's two things you've said there, which is I appreciate a double answer, which is know who your target client is, and be known for at least one thing.
Yes.
Love it.
I think mine would be learn from each other and share with each other. And I don't know as much here, but I think, our CEO is a great example. Like he has a woodworking company. He's willing to share almost anything about it. He's fully transparent about the business, which has helped so many other people.
I love that.
And as the industry, as we meet more people, I think them sharing with each other helps all of us grow.
Yeah.
So mine would be to share and learn.
And to build on that, his organization is an ESOP organization, an employee-owned organization. So that transparency is a core part of who they are, right? And the shop floor, they're looking at the income statement, right? And they have it up there, and everybody has an idea of what the goal is.
It's interesting, because in our coaching program, people that give us feedback quite often, and they'll say, I was expecting to find great coaches because that's what I was promised. I was expecting to see great content because that's what I was promised. I saw that, and that's what we needed. What I wasn't expecting is the value of the community itself. I wasn't expecting to have such an open community willing to help me. And so that community part of it, we also find is so valuable because the industry on a whole has a tendency to kind of close itself down and not really talk to each other. But when we do get, these businesses exchanging ideas, it's a really cool thing.
It changes the industry.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But now you opened a little bit of a wound here, which is fine, right? Of going back and saying, well, if I could have been a better whatever when I was running my shop, right? Yeah. And my big thing was creating more time to work on the business and less in the business. Yeah. I think if I would have done more of that, we would have been able to have a better velocity of improvement. Yeah. Right. We improved. We did a lot of great things, but we would have sped that up. Right?
It's the old story, right? If you want to stay on the tools, stay an employee. Yeah. Because you're going to have less stress and probably make more money and have more time. Yeah. But if you want to run a business, get off the tools as quickly as possible and start running a business.
And never stop your learning. Yeah. Right. There's always something to learn out there. Always.
Well, this has been really awesome. I really appreciate you being our first inaugural guest.
I feel honored that we got to be in here.
So you got to come into the barn, you got to have our coffee, we got to have a chat, we got to talk a little bit about music. If there was one thing that you could leave us with about Innergy, what would be the one thing that would sum up let's say, what makes you different, what stands you guys apart from anyone else in the industry?
Ooh, I'll take it first. You
Please.
keep taking it first.
Yeah, please.
For the industry, by the industry. For woodworkers, by woodworkers.
I like that.
So started with a woodworker, and our software was created from that, and I think that's a real differentiator of who we are. Yeah.
I would probably. You stole what I was going to say.
That's why I wanted to.
I love it. But I'd probably say what makes us unique, and knock on wood, but I think a set of innovative activities got us here is our customers do not leave us.
Right.
We're sticky.
We have an extremely sticky product that provides solutions all the time. Yeah. And an extremely low churn rate so you get value out of Innergy, you're sticking with it with Innergy, and we're always providing more value to our clients.
It's a good indicator of success for sure.
Yeah. And mine would be, Cole kind of alluded to it earlier on, is that our customers buy software, but they're really buying change. Yeah. And when you look at how we implement people, even how we go through the sales process, how we do education, it all goes through to, hey, how can we help you go through this change to give you tools beyond just the software to get this into your organization, not just be a flash in the pan thing, right? That it's a long-term change towards improvement. It's really change at the end of the day.
I love what you're saying. I love your message. I love the fact that the whole theory of the software is based on the theory of constraints and current methodologies, which are proven and unquestionable that they work or whether they don't work. And I also love what you just said, AJ. I have a theory that goes like this: money buys speed. And if you want to go fast to get you where you want to go quickly, you've got to invest in things that are going to get you there. Sure. And it's not going to come to you overnight, just through osmosis by dreaming it. People think, I'll figure it out as I go along, and pretty soon they're 55, 60 years old, and it still hasn't come to them. So getting that help, investing in the right things to get you to where you want to go. I think most business owners had a dream of where they wanted this business to be in a few years. And unfortunately time slips by and they don't get there. So these investments are really important to get where you want to go. So I love what you're doing, and I'm really excited to see what the future is going to be, what the future is going to look like for Innergy, particularly here in Australia, but around the world as well, because it's a wonderful experience. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being on the podcast. Yeah. And any closing remarks?
I'm just excited to experience the rest of Australia. This is the beginning of our trip, so we get to go and. Well,
you now know what a flat white is, so that's the first step of being an Aussie.
Yeah.
I will say the coffee so far has been magnificent.
Top notch.
in Melbourne. I'm a big fan.
It's been good. Thanks for having us.
Very welcome. Great for having you here, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bruce.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.